Breaking the Silence: How Black Women Heal from Sexual Trauma. When I recently sat down with Godus Christos, I knew I was in the presence of someone extraordinary. For those who don't know her work, Goddess has dedicated her life to creating pathways of healing for survivors of sexual trauma, particularly within Black communities. Her groundbreaking research and compassionate approach have transformed countless lives, turning wounds into wisdom and pain into purpose. What makes Goddess truly remarkable isn't just her professional expertise, it's the way she embodies the healing she advocates for. As she told me with quiet certainty, healing isn't just possible, it's our birthright. Those words have echoed in my mind ever since. Have you ever noticed how we're taught to lock away our deepest wounds, to smile through the pain, to just keep going? For too many Black women, this isn't just social conditioning, it's survival. 54%. Let that number sink in for a moment. That's how many Black women will face stalking, physical, or sexual abuse in their lifetime. Not 5%, not 15, 54. And yet, when I mention this statistic in certain rooms, I can feel the discomfort rising like steam. People shift in their seats, eyes dart away, because we've created a culture where certain traumas remain unspeakable, especially for Black women. I remember watching a documentary where a survivor said, "The silence hurt more than the assault." And that's the cruel irony, isn't it? The very thing we think protects us, our silence, often becomes another layer of our prison. Through my conversation with Goddess Christos, three critical truths emerged that can transform how we approach healing from sexual trauma, particularly for Black women. First, healing is possible, and forgiveness, while deeply personal, can be profoundly liberating. Second, Black survivors face unique systemic challenges that must be acknowledged. And third, community support isn't just helpful, it's essential for recovery. Let's start with healing because make no mistake, it is possible. In Ghana, where nearly one third of women report experiencing sexual violence, grassroots organizations have launched education campaigns focused on breaking the silence around abuse. These programs incorporate forgiveness as part of holistic healing rooted in local culture. Now, let me be crystal clear about something. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation, it doesn't mean excusing what happened, and it certainly doesn't mean forgetting. What it does mean, and what God has emphasized repeatedly in our conversation, is releasing the grip that trauma has on your future. It means choosing freedom over the exhausting weight of carrying both the injury and the hatred. One survivor from these Ghanaian support groups described it this way: "I thought forgiveness meant saying what happened was okay. It's not okay. It will never be okay. But forgiving meant I could finally sleep through the night without my abuser occupying space in my dreams." That's the liberation that becomes possible. But, and this is crucial, forgiveness is deeply personal. It cannot be prescribed, demanded, or rushed. For some, it may never be part of their healing journey, and that's completely valid too. The second truth that emerged from my conversation with Godis is that Black survivors face unique challenges that demand specific acknowledgement. Consider Valerie Ford, a mother in the UK who reported threats from her ex partner to police. "I'll burn your house down with you and your daughter in it," he told her. The police categorized it as a threat to property. Weeks later, Valerie and her 22-month-old daughter were murdered. This tragedy led to the founding of Sister Space, a UK based charity supporting Black women who have experienced domestic or sexual abuse. Their fight for Valerie's Law highlights how systems designed to protect often fail Black women specifically. The founder of Sister Space faced systemic racism in mainstream services that simply couldn't or wouldn't understand the unique needs of Black survivors. Many clients reported being dismissed or misunderstood by police and social workers. This isn't unique to the UK. In America, the adultification bias means Black girls are perceived as less innocent and more adult like than their white peers. Research shows they receive less nurturing, protection, and support, even when they're victims. And when Black women defend themselves against abusers, they're often criminalized rather than supported. The National Black Women's Justice Institute works at this precise intersection, providing legal aid alongside trauma informed counseling, designed specifically by and for Black women navigating both recovery from assault and unjust prosecution. One woman they supported had been imprisoned for defending herself against her trafficker. Upon release, she didn't just need trauma counseling, she needed housing, legal support, and protection from a system that had already failed her once. This brings me to the third truth: community support isn't optional, it's essential. When traditional systems fail, community becomes the lifeline. But here's the painful reality: support services like shelters and counseling resources have been systematically eroded, leaving many survivors isolated precisely when they need connection most. In Ghana, peer support groups provide safe environments for sharing pain without judgment. These groups foster hope through solidarity, creating spaces where healing becomes not just an individual journey, but a collective one. Census Space secured over 100,000 petition signatures for Valerie's Law, brought government attention to intersectional needs, and created safe spaces where survivors could heal together. Their work has inspired similar advocacy across the UK and highlighted how culturally relevant support leads directly to improved outcomes. The National Black Women's Justice Institute has helped shape national conversations around survivor defense and trained lawyers and social workers nationwide in anti bias best practices tailored explicitly toward supporting abused Black women and girls. Their impact: shifting policy discourse toward restorative, not just punitive, justice frameworks that prioritize survivor well being above all else. What these organizations understand, what Godus emphasized in our conversation, is that healing happens in community, not in isolation, not in silence, but in spaces where your full humanity is recognized and honored. I'm reminded of the African concept of Ubuntu: I am because we are. Healing isn't just personal, it's communal. When one woman breaks her silence, she creates space for others to do the same. But here's where I want to challenge us all: supporting survivors isn't just about donating to organizations, though that helps. It's about creating cultures of belief, of listening, of action. It means believing Black women when they report abuse the first time. It means understanding that healing isn't linear. Some days are victories, others are just about surviving. It means recognizing that forgiveness, if and when it comes, isn't about the perpetrator. It's about the survivor reclaiming their power. And it means acknowledging that for Black women specifically, healing must address both the trauma itself and the systemic failures that compound it. So, where do we go from here? If you're a survivor listening to this, I want you to hear something that God has shared with me that touched me deeply. Your healing doesn't have to look like anyone else's. There's no timeline, no checklist, no right way. to reclaim your life after trauma. Some days healing looks like therapy and support groups. Other days is simply getting out of bed. Both are victories. And forgiveness, if you choose it, comes when you're ready, not when someone else decides you should be over it. If you're supporting a survivor, remember the most powerful words you can offer are, I believe you. Not advice, not solutions, just presence and belief. For communities, we must build networks of care, advocating for survivor centered resources while creating cultures where coming forward isn't met with skepticism, but with support. And for systems, we need trauma informed approaches that recognize the specific challenges Black survivors face, from adultification bias to criminalization when defending themselves. The work of organizations like Sister Space, grassroots movements in Ghana, and the National Black Women's Justice Institute shows us what's possible when we center the experience of those most marginalized. But I won't end this talk with mere hope. I want to end with a call to action. Today, I challenge you to become an active participant in breaking the silence. If you are in a position of influence, whether as a parent, educator, healthcare provider, or community leader, examine how you respond when survivors speak. Do you listen without judgment? Do you believe without question? Do you act without hesitation? For those working within systems, law enforcement, healthcare, social services, I challenge you to seek out training specifically on supporting Black women and girls who have experienced trauma. Recognize the biases that may be preventing you from truly seeing their pain. For communities, I challenge you to create spaces where healing can happen collectively. Start support groups, fund local organizations, believe survivors. And for survivors, I see you. I believe you. Your story matters. Your healing matters. And it is not just possible, it is your absolute right. As Godus Christos reminded me, healing isn't just about recovering what was lost, it's about discovering parts of yourself you never knew existed, strength you didn't know you had, resilience beyond measure. In a world that too often silences Black women's pain, reclaiming that birthright isn't just healing, it's revolution. And revolutions don't happen in silence. They happen when we speak, when we connect, when we demand better, not just for ourselves, but for every survivor who comes after us. The silence ends here. The healing begins now, and we will not do it alone. Thank you